Hey everybody, thanks for joining me as I create this page in my junk journal. So I've selected a page in my junk journal that I have already put down some gel prints on a previous day. So this is a cleanup page and I'm going to start painting around those gel prints with colors of Dilutions paint and Dilutions shimmer paint. I'm using a wet brush and then picking up that paint right off of my craft sheet. So this paint gets very watered down and very loose. I'm starting out with Shimmer Calypso Teal, and then I'm switching to Blue Lagoon, and then London Blue. So because my brush is very, very wet, and I'm even dunking it into my jar of water to make the brush even wetter, these paints are going to be very loose and very blended on my page. And after I'm happy with the coverage, I'm also going to go in with my wet brush and start tapping my brush to create splatters of the London Blue over the entire background, and then I'm going to set this aside to dry. I have picked out a sheet from the Dina Wakley Media Just Words collage tissue. This particular sheet has a bunch of different printed circles, and I'm going to cut around 3 of them to place down on my page. When I'm doing any kind of collage with tissue, I like to remove the extra tissue away from the image because it's just extra to put on my page and I have to make sure that it blends in and dissolves into the page. So the more of that extra tissue you can remove, the easier it is to place it down on your page. And after I've removed the extra tissue from all 3 circles, I'm going to glue them down onto my page with Distress Collage Medium. Traditionally, when you're using tissues, you want to use a gel medium that's designed for tissue paper. But in this case, because there's so much black text on this circle, I found that I could just use Distress Collage Medium. There wasn't a bunch of extra tissue to dissolve and make go translucent. So like I said, I'm sticking down these 3 circles on my background, and I'm making sure that each one of them overlap a little bit of the gel print in the background to start to build up my composition for my page. A tip when you're working with any kind of tissue, and especially with circles, is if you start from the center and you work your way towards the edge, pushing out gently, you can mostly get out all of the wrinkles and have completely smooth collage tissue. If you go back and forth or up and down or in any other direction than from the center to the outside, you will end up with wrinkles and it won't be smooth. After the tissue is 100% dry, I'm going to start making marks on my page. So this cap is actually a leftover cap that when I was done with my Distress Collage Medium jar, I cleaned up the cap and now I use it as a mark making tool. I'm just twisting this cap in circles into the 3 colors of paint that I used in my background and then placing it down on my page to get a print. If it's not 100% a perfect circle, that's okay because this is more of a mark than needing it to be a perfect, complete circle. Next, I'm using my Mister bottle and once again rolling the base of that bottle into the paints and then placing it down on my page. And this is also going to give me another size of circle. And because the base is a little wider, the circle is going to be a little bit wider. That outline's a little bit wider than the cap. And I'm just going to keep overlapping these circles until I'm happy with the coverage. And then I'm going to move on to my smallest circle, which is a cap from an old used tube of chapstick. So after I was done with the chapstick, I simply tossed the base and kept the cap. It's important when you're using any kind of leftover cap or jar cover that when you're done printing with it, wipe it off with a baby wipe and then set it aside and you can use it over and over and over. Now I'm ready to begin working on my focal point. And the first piece that I'm going to glue down is one of the rainbow stitch scraps that came in the September 2021 Mixed Media Inspired subscription box. And I'm going to be gluing down all of my elements with Dina Wakley Media Ultra Thick Gel Medium, which is a really good adhesive when you're doing any kind of collage and you want to be able to move around your elements a little bit after you've placed them. So I picked this flower and I didn't really like these designs on the outside of it, so I'm simply going to cut them off with my scissors. And I found this flower in the Art by Marlene Lime Collection die cut block. Something to note whenever you're working with collage elements, stamps, stencils, anything, if you don't like an element that's part of the overall design or image, you can simply remove it, color it in, alter it, do whatever you need to do until you're happy with the image. This is your art and you should feel free to customize it as you feel necessary. So as I mentioned, the flower and now this chair both come from the Art by Marlene Lime Collection die cut block. And it's a book that's filled with over 250 different images, no scissors necessary. You can just pop them out of the book with your finger and they're ready to collage. So I'm placing down both of these elements, and the beauty now, because I did use Dina Wakley Media Ultra Thick Gel Medium, it has a 10-minute dry window. I'm able to adjust these elements to where I want them and then leave them to dry. I'm going to be using a piece of tissue that I had made earlier in another project, and also a sheet from the Dina Wakley Media Just Words collage tissue, and I've cut out one of the words from one of the sheets, and I'm going to glue it down onto this tissue that I made another day. And the word that I chose is just do your own thing, which I thought was kind of fitting for this chair and just the quirkiness of this page in my junk journal. So I'm gluing down this tissue word onto the tissue with Dina Wakley Media Gel Medium, which is designed for doing any kind of thin tissues or thin book papers. And I'm going to let this dry and then cut out that word with my scissors, just going directly around the tissue and cutting away any of the extra background tissue. And then when I've removed all of the background tissue, I'm just going to cut the quote in half so there's two pieces. And then I'm going to glue them down onto my page using the ultra thick gel medium. So I am switching back and forth between adhesives depending on what I'm gluing and where and how I want to work with these products. So I'm going to place down these words and I'm making sure that they're completely smooth. So I'm working from left to right with my finger after I've placed them down on the page. I'm just gently pushing with my finger from left to right until that tissue is completely smooth, and then I'm going to leave it alone to dry 100% before I do anything else. The last element to complete my page is going to be a few drops of the Nuvo Crystal Drops in Ripe Pumpkin. And I'm placing these drops just around my focal point of the chair and the flower and the rainbow stitch scrap. And I'm doing it in either one single drop or in a group of 3. And then I'm also going to put just a couple drops around my focal point to tie in the entire piece and also to draw your eye to the center of the page and the design that I've created. And with that, my page is complete. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you were inspired, and I'd love to see what you're creating today. So share with us on social media using hashtag ArtJournalJunction. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any future mixed media projects, live streams, or art journaling pages.